Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, my colleague said he takes the plane home every week. I take the train home every week, and it's safe or broken. But I don't expect you to say anything, Mr. Scoville. My issue is, I have problems when we get compared to Canada. Big problems.
We look Mr. Saras, can you speak more directly into the mic? We didn't quite hear you.
I have to eat it. It's like you're getting close.
Like you're going to kiss.
I have a problem when we get compared to Canada. It reminds me of the argument with the health bill. They have a great health system. We don't. Canada only has 40 million people. We have 350 million people. It's a lot easier to set up a health system for a country that only has 40 million people. I have some fears regarding this. They have 40 towers. We have 500 towers. Obviously, can you assure me that if we go this route, that we're not too large to fail? Because I also have a concern regarding the airlines. I think the airlines are getting so big that it's very difficult to manage. And I raised that issue the other day when we had a hearing here. Can you assure me that my fears are wrong, that this big effort, I am wrong about it? Well, I'll start with Commissioner Mr. Brown.
I love flying in Canada, and I love the country of Canada, but I do not.
Oh, I don't dislike the country of Canada.
Exactly. But I don't think the comparison of our national airspace and management system to Canada is anything other than an exercise in gleaning some observations. But it's not proper to directly compare. I mean, for sure, in our system, we're driving a much more substantial portion of our economy out of the aviation sector and the airspace that supports it. I mean, we have 10 times more pilots, 50,000 flights a day. It's a wholly different organization. So for me, when I think about Canada, I believe that they made a choice that they thought suited their purposes with the role of aviation in its infrastructure. But we're faced with entirely different objectives here. And as far as I'm concerned, the system that we've been living in has done a masterful job of adjudicating all the interests of stakeholders, all the interests of our expansive country and the states that are in it and their needs. And so I can applaud things they've done that have worked for their country, but I also very much applaud things we've done in our country. And I would take exception to one thing Ms. Robine said, which is she characterized our system as a laggard. That is just false. We have the technology deployed in our system today that no other country can rival. We lead in our next-gen initiative. So, you know, I'm pretty proud of where we are. And by the way, I know it because I fly it. It's not a mystery and it's not a theory.
Thank you. Mr. Poole, can you answer?
Yeah. First of all, Canada's system is the second largest in the world in terms of flight operations. So it's the best comparator we have. We are 9 times bigger in terms of flight activity. But their model has worked extremely well for 20 years. It's not too big to fail, and neither would ours be. If you go to the credit markets, the people who finance revenue bonds for these, they give investment-grade ratings to the Brits, the Germans, the Australians, the Canadians, because they have a dependable user fee revenue stream that you can basically bank on. And neither NATS nor NAV Canada declared bankruptcy. Both were hit hard by 9/11 because of the North Atlantic traffic. NATS was brand new and got an additional investment from their 2 main owners, the British government and the airline group. NAV Canada simply raised their rates somewhat, maybe I think it was 10 or 15% for a couple of years, and built up their reserve fund. And since then, they have a substantial reserve fund in case of another serious downturn that they can work through without having to
Mr. Scoville, can you just I got 30 seconds left.
Sure. As you know, my office looked at the air traffic control organizations for the other 4 countries. And we were told by officials in those organizations that they considered part of their borrowing authority to be leverageable or to be recognized by private lenders because ultimately, should something drastic go wrong, the government would step in behind them. I'm not representing that that would be the case here. that's your policy call to make. I'm simply relaying what officials for other air traffic control organizations have told us about their systems.
So in those 4 countries, they were on the hook? Is that what you're saying?
Conceivably,
Yes, sir.
they may be. There'll be policy calls for their legislatures and executive branch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.